إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد, to proceed. Yesterday we began taking some benefit from the Risala of a Shaykh al-Allama Abdul Rahman ibn Nasir al-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, that is called, in some places it is named Risalatun fil Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyah, because of what it contains towards the end of the short book of the principles of fiqh. Although, as we mentioned, it is a book on the subject matter of usul al-fiqh, and of the fundamentals, if you will, of fiqh, and that which fiqh is built upon, of principles, of comprehensive principles, that when combined with detailed evidences in particular issues, allow us to arrive at conclusions and rulings and meanings and objectives in the Sharia of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And we mentioned that as the author of the book, he said that usul al-fiqh are adillatun kulliyah, that they are the comprehensive evidences of fiqh. They are the comprehensive evidences of fiqh. And we gave some examples of that when combined with the masail of fiqh, when combined with the issues that require rulings, and the adilla juz'iyyah, tafsiliyah, the detailed evidences for exact issues, that rulings are arrived at in the religion. And we mentioned that the definition of usul al-fiqh that is more detailed, that is given by the scholars, is al-ilm bil-adillat al-fiqh al-kuliyyah wa kayfiyat al-istifadati minha wa hal al-mustafid, is to have knowledge, certain knowledge about the comprehensive evidences of fiqh, meaning what are the evidences of the religion, which we said that there are four that are agreed upon. And what are they? The four evidences agreed upon: the Kitab, the Sunnah, the Ijma', and Qiyas Sahih. The two most important being the Quran and the Sunnah. The Quran and the Sunnah, and the affair of Qiyas, and the affair of al-Ijma' al-Sahih, must be mustanad ila dalil, and it must be connected to evidence from the religion. It must be connected to an evidence from the religion. The affair of Qiyas, and it is something that will come to, inshallah, will arrive at today, and mentioning the evidences, perhaps, and mentioning the evidences from, or the meaning of these four evidences, and its connection to the Kitab and the Sunnah. The author, Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, وبهذا نعرف الضرورة والحاجة إلى معرفة أصول الفقه وأنها معينة عليه وهي أساس النظر والاجتهاد في الأحكام. Once we understand what the role of usul al-fiqh is, then we come to know the necessity and the dire need of knowing the science, and that it aids a person in understanding his religion, and that it is the basis of investigation and scholarly effort in arriving at rulings as regards the legislative ordinances. فصل الأحكام التي يدور عليها الفقه. We started with this yesterday, and the rulings of fiqh revolve around. The rulings of fiqh revolve around. We mentioned that they are 5 in number. And what are they? Wajib, mandub, muharram, makruh, mubah. These are what are called al-ahkam al-taklifiyah, the ahkam of taklif. The ahkam of taklif. And what is meant by taklif is al-mas'uliyah, and his responsibility, and what a person will be asked about on the Day of Judgment. And the scholars, they disliked, many of the scholars, they dislike using the word taklif. And they say, as was stated by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, even though it is a mustalah, it is a term that is used frequently amongst the scholars in their writings, that it has its origins with the Mu'tazila. It had its origins where it gained widespread usage with the Mu'tazila, because the Mu'tazila, they believe that a person la yuthabu illa ala al-amal al-shaq, that a person is not rewarded in the hereafter except for difficult actions. The only actions that he is rewarded for are actions that were difficult for him. And so the word taklif, it comes from the word kulfa, which means mashaqqa, which means difficulty. And mashaqqa with Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah is not maqsoodun li dhatiha, is not intended in and of itself. And our belief is that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala did not legislate the acts of worship because of the difficulty that they entail, but rather He legislated what He legislated لمصالح العباد في المعاش والمعاد لإقامة عبودية الله ولمصالح العباد في المعاش والمعاد. And He legislated Tabarak wa Ta'ala what He legislated to establish His worship in the earth and to bring about benefit for the creation in this world and the hereafter. And the mashaqqa that is found, the difficulty that is found in some actions, is not the reason that those actions were legislated. It's not the reason that those actions were legislated, but rather it is from the tawabi', it is from the natural consequences of certain actions. It's from the natural consequences of certain actions. And this mashaqqa is ghayru mu'tada, and it is something that is unnatural. It is, or this mashaqqa rather, it is mu'tad, it is something that is natural, and that which is unnatural of mashaqqa, of difficulty, abnormal difficulty. And what is meant by abnormal difficulty, as some of the scholars mention, as is mentioned by Imam Shatibi rahimahullah ta'ala in his muwafaqat, that unnatural difficulty, or that difficulty rather, that difficulty that is found within the religion, that it is no more than the difficulty that a person goes through on a day-to-day basis in the natural affairs of his day-to-day life, and providing for his family and working to earn his keep and the likes of these things. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He said, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Indeed, we created mankind in a state of kabad, of mukabada, of kabad, and of difficulty, of toiling. There is not a day that passes by a human being except that he has difficulty that he endures and he encounters in that day. As some of the Imams of the Salaf, they said that if the dunya was enjoyable and everything was to a person's liking, when would he ever hate the dunya? Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has made the dunya furas wa ghusas, and a person has opportunities for goodness and for that which he enjoys, and is full of ghusas, likewise, that which is bitter and difficult to swallow. And this is the nature of the dunya. What a person is responsible for in his religion is not anything more difficult, and does not even reach close to the level of difficulty of what he endures in his day-to-day life, in the affairs of his dunya, so on and so forth. And this is something that we see in some of the issues of fiqh when they mention the illah, the ruling of a particular affair being connected to al-mashaqqa. Like, for example, the issue of combining because of rainfall. What is the reason that a person combines? That a person is allowed in the masjid to combine because of rainfall. What is the reason? What is the reason? Because of the mashaqqa. Is the reason the rain? No, if the reason was the rain, that means if it was sprinkling outside, the type of rain, like I told the brothers a couple weeks ago, it started to rain outside, and somebody looked at me like, were we going to combine the salat? I said, this is the type of rain that you play in. It's not the type of rain that keeps you from going about your day-to-day life, so on and so forth. Right? It's not a mashaqqa. That's not a difficulty, because it's drizzling outside on a hot day. You always want to go outside and get some rain on your head. Right? Every type of rain doesn't warrant a person combining their salat. But the type of rain that warrants a person combining his salat is the type of rain or inclement weather, no matter what it is, if it's wind or cold or rain or hail or sleet or whatever, that entails mashaqqa, but not just regular mashaqqa, and it is a slight difficulty, that which is an abnormal difficulty, a unnatural difficulty, that which would prevent a person going about his day-to-day life. For this reason, Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, did not hold the position that a person could combine for rain for dhuhr and asr. For dhuhr and asr. From what he saw from the people of Medina and the type of rain that fell during his life in Medina, he saw that during dhuhr and asr, when it rained, that the people of the aswaq, that the people of the marketplace, they didn't stop their business and their trade. If it was a type of difficulty that was an abnormal difficulty, then the people would have stopped their normal goings abouts and so on and so forth, and they would have, held off. You see the type of rain where people start to pull off the highway, right? So you look outside the window, and nobody has their windshield wipers on, but the brothers want to combine because they have things to do. You say it has to be the type of inclement weather that has mashaqqa. And this is one of the things that was mentioned by Al-Layth ibn Sa'ad, rahimahullah ta'ala, in his letter to Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, that during the time of the Tabi'een, when you had great Imams of the Salaf like Abu Idris al-Khawlani and others, and some of the Sahaba of the Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, like Abu Darda and others who were from the ulama in Damascus and in the Bayt al-Maqdis and that area and so on and so forth, various ulama from the Ashab and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and from the Tabi'een, that it was not known that they ever combined because of rain. He said, and the rainfall there, as was mentioned by Al-Fasawi in his book Al-Ma'rifah wa Tarikh, that it rained so hard in the Jazira and in Asham during the life of Umar bin Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah ta'ala, who was at the end of the second generation, the Tabi'een. It rained so hard that some of the people's homes started to collapse because of the rain. But despite that, it was never reported from a single one of them that they combined because of the rain. So it wasn't an issue that was very widespread like that, even in places where the weather was much more inclement than it was in the Jazira, and in the Arabian Peninsula, and the Hijaz rather, and the Hijaz, and the area of Mecca and Medina and so on and so forth. The rainfall is nowhere close to the rainfall in Asham, and the winters there are nothing like the winters in Asham and so on and so forth. And so the issue of al-mashaqqa, and Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala, he said about the likes of this, that is very hard, ithbatu nafi mutlaq, to affirm an absolute negation that somebody never did something is very difficult to do, nearly impossible for a person to do, to say that somebody never did something, right? But what we do know is that it wasn't something that they did all of the time. We have evidence that the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, or rather the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, that they combined for the rain, that the companions, they combined for the rain. What we have from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is that on one occasion the Prophet ﷺ, it was said, or that it was known to the Prophet ﷺ, rather, that he would combine between the salats without traveling and without there being a rainfall and so on and so forth. So what was reported, and as regards the companions combining for rain and the Tabi'een combining for the rain, so on and so forth, shows that there's a basis for it, that it was something that was understood because of the difficulty. But the difficulty has to be that which is abnormal. And it falls under the principle al-mashaqqa tajribu at-taysir, that a natural abnormal difficulty, it warrants a person simplifying things, facilitation of ease for himself, making things easier for himself. I don't even know how we got to this discussion. Going to the text. So we started to mention the ahkam, and the rulings that fiqh revolves around. And we said that they are 5 in number. وينقسم الواجب إلى فرض عين يطلب فعله من كل مكلف بالغ عاقل وهو جمهور أحكام الشريعة الواجبة. He said that which is obligatory, we were talking about taklif, that's what we were talking about, taklif. And what are called al-ahkam al-taklifiyya. The ahkam of taklif, and taklif, what is meant by it is moral responsibility. We were just saying in general that the scholars, as Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned that, this term, it denotes that there is difficulty in the Sharia, that there is abnormal difficulty in the Sharia. And this is not necessarily the case. Alhamdulillah, the religion of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is easy, that which Allah has legislated for the people to do habitually and make their habit and their practice on a day-to-day basis. In general, it is something that is easy. When abnormal difficulty is found in something that warrants a takhfif, a person lightening affairs for himself and taking the rukhas, the concessions in the Sharia and the likes of that. But these rulings, they are termed al-ahkam al-taklifiyya. The rulings of taklif, and what is meant by taklif is moral responsibility. To go to what is mentioned by the Shaykh here after mentioning the ahkam al-taklifiyya, the 5 rulings of moral responsibility, he says, وَيَنْقَسِمُ الْوَاجِبُ إِلَى فَرْضِ عَيْنٍ يُطْلَبُ فِعْلُهُ مِنْ كُلِّ مُكَلَّفٍ بَالِغٍ عَاقِلٍ وَهُوَ جُمْهُورُ أَحْكَامِ الشَّرِيعَةِ الْوَاجِبَةِ. He said that what is obligatory is divided into 2 categories. It is divided into 2 categories. The first, that which is fardun ayn, that which is obligatory upon all. It is a collective responsibility, and it is obligatory upon everyone, bi'aynihi, meaning that everyone who is called mukallaf, responsible for their actions, who is a person who is baligh, who has reached the age of puberty, who is aqil, who is sane, is responsible for. At-taklif, this is a principle in the Sharia. At-taklif huwa al-aqlu wal-bulugh. At-taklif is a person having sanity and reaching the age of puberty. This is the meaning of moral responsibility, where a person becomes responsible for these actions. So, what is meant by that? That a person becomes responsible for their actions at the age of taklif. And the age of taklif is the age of bulugh, the age of moral responsibility. And we know the signs of that. Quickly, the signs of a person having reached the age of puberty is what? The wet dream for the males or for the females. What else? Menstruation for the females. What else? The age of 15. What else? Facial hair for the sisters too. The growing of the hair on the anat and the ibt and the anat, the thicker hair, not the fuzz on the armpit or the pubic area. And I can't hear you. We said menses. I think that's everything, right? So this is the age where a person is accountable for their actions. A person is accountable for their actions. So if a person does a sin, right? Say a child does an act of oppression against another person, right? Hurts another child or breaks a property, breaks a window, throws a rock, so on and so forth. The child is not responsible, right? The child is not responsible. Is the child responsible? The child is, are the angels writing? If the child hasn't reached the age of puberty, is it responsible? So if my daughter broke your window I just say akhi. She's not responsible. Who's responsible? Hey, what is affirmed is ad-daman. Ad-daman yathbut. And the responsibility is gone, is saqat. And a person isn't responsible for their actions, meaning that the angels aren't writing their actions up until that point. But what is affirmed, that is what is negated. But what is affirmed is liability. Liability, somebody has to break lost property, broken property, so on and so forth. Right? So, a taklif, if a person does acts of righteousness before they reach the age of puberty, the angels don't write that? Do the angels write that? So the child makes hajj at the age of 9. Is acceptable, but doesn't count as the wajib. It doesn't count as an obligation. But are they rewarded for it? Inshallah, it's rewardable. They can be rewarded for it. Right? And so what is meant by taklif? And so what is meant by taklif, and he is al-bulugh wal-aql. And that person has reached the age of responsibility, and where they have reached puberty and they are sane. So this is the first type of wajib, that which is fardun ayn, that is compulsory upon, that is required from yutlabu fi'luhu, is required to be done by everyone who is mukallaf, balighin aqil, yani who is morally responsible, who has reached the age of puberty and who is sane. And this is the majority, the vast majority of the rulings of the Sharia that are mandatory. They are fardun ayn. They are fardun ayn. The second type is fardun kifaya. Fardun kifaya, that which is called a community responsibility, if you will. And he is that from the word fardun kifaya. And kifaya is that which yakfi, that which is enough. And meaning that if some people, الذي هو الذي يطلب حصوله وتحصيله من المكلفين لا من كل واحد بعينه, and it is required to be done in general by those people that are responsible, and that it be facilitated. حصوله يطلب حصوله وتحصيله من المكلفين. That's a nice wording. The scholars are very careful, especially when they write short books, that they phrase things with words that are mundabita, words that are very carefully chosen, words that are very, very carefully chosen. يطلب حصوله وتحصيله من المكلفين, and it is that which is sought to be done by and to be facilitated, to be done and to be facilitated by the mukallafin. Why is that so interesting? And what are some of the furud kifaiyyah, and some of the community obligations? Salatul Janazah. What else? Inheritance? No. Saying Yarhamukallah when somebody sneezes. Ala rajih la. And he actually saying Yarhamukallah when somebody sneezes and says Alhamdulillah. Many of the scholars, they say, is fardun ayn, and there's an interesting story behind that, which was the cause of the banishment of al-Imam al-Barbahari, rahimahullah ta'ala. He had so many students that on one occasion when somebody sneezed and said Alhamdulillah, the sound of his students saying Yarhamukallah terrified the ruler, and it caused him to die in hiding, rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam al-Barbahari. So no, actually, if somebody says Alhamdulillah, it is, and what is most correct, the scholars, they say, is for the person to, for all those who hear him say Alhamdulillah, to say Yarhamukallah. But similar to that is what? The taslim, responding to the person who gives the salams, so on and so forth. Giving da'wah is something that is a community obligation. Giving the khutbah is a community obligation. Calling the adhan, not everybody can go out there and call the adhan. It's a community obligation. If one person does it, then the blame is removed from the rest of the people. I can't hear you. Visiting the sick, Not everybody can go visit the sick, right? If somebody's sick and the whole community shows up at his doorstep, there's going to be any tathqeel, they're going to be thuqala. He's going to change his address and not tell anybody where he lives when he gets better. He said? Leading the salat. Leading the salat, of course. If you have a nation, right? You have a nation. And then what are some of the responsibilities inside of a Muslim country, inside of a Muslim nation? The people, the khazan, and the person that's over the Bayt al-Mal. What? Building the houses of Allah is a community obligation. Because the Prophet ﷺ, as comes in the Sunan of Abi Dawood and the Hadith of Aisha, and likewise in the Hadith of her nephew Urwa, and reported from some of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ without naming them, Amarana Rasulullah ﷺ and nabni masajid fi dur. The Prophet ﷺ ordered us to build the masajid in the residential areas that require them, وأن تطيب وتنظف, and that they be what? That they be تطيب, made to have a good smell. They be fragrated, if that's a word. وتنظف, made to have a good aroma. وتنظف, and that they be cleaned. So this hadith that we just mentioned has 3 community obligations that must be done, which is what? The building of the masajid, the making sure the masjid has a good smell, doesn't stink. As the Shaykh Muhammad Taqiyuddin Hilali rahimahullah ta'ala used to call the Jama'atul Tabligh al-Battalun, and the broke, unemployed people. He said they go masjid to masjid all across the world, stinking up the masjid with their feet, traveling throughout the air, so on and so forth, the body odor and the smell of their feet stinking up the masjid, so on and so forth. The masjid has to have a good odor, right? Masjid has to have a good odor. And if a person comes to the masjid with a noxious odor, what harms the malaika, and what harms people, harms the malaika, annoys the malaika, so on and so forth, and the person shouldn't come to the masjid with a bad smell. And removing that person, in the case that he is a nuisance, but he is distracting the people who are praying, so on and so forth, is also considered a community obligation, right? And if a person is causing a ruckus in the masjid, right, al-darar yuzal, Shaykh Muhammad Adam al-Athiyubi, hafidhahullah ta'ala, wa rahimahullahu hayyan wa maytan. Shaykh Muhammad Adam al-Athiyubi, when he mentioned the hadith about the person who had the bad smell in the masjid, and he said, and this applies to everything that is mu'adhi, everything that is a nuisance. The Shaykh Uthaymeen, when he mentioned it, he said, this is an evidence that the person who caused the innovation is to be removed from the masjid because his nuisance is spiritual, while the person who had a physical nuisance is removed from the masjid, and then that which is min babi awla, that which is more important, must be done, right? But everybody doesn't have to jump up and pick the guy up on their shoulders and take him out, right? The guy look like he's crowd surfing leaving the masjid. And they don't have to do that. Alhamdulillah, somebody comes with hikmah, say, you're welcome to pray in the masjid, so on and so forth. However, we don't allow anybody to grab the microphone unless they are somebody who is trustworthy, that is known, qualified, and so on and so forth. And if you persist in this fashion, then hit the road, Jack, right? And then if he wants to act a fool, then he can crowd surf out the masjid, right? Community obligations, the building of the masjid. What else? People to teach the religion, right? The commanders, battlefield commanders for the Muslim military, for the Muslim army and the Islamic countries, right? Muslim judges, the muftun, the people of fatwa, right? The people who distribute the zakat. All of these people, what the Shaykh say about al-furud al-kifaiyah, about those community obligations, يَجِبُ حُصُولُهُ وَتَحْصِيلُهُ مِنَ الْمُكَلَّفِينَ, and that it is mandatory that it be done and facilitated by the mukallafin. There's something tremendous as mentioned by Ash-Shatibi, and it's one of the most beneficial parts of his tremendous book Al-Muwafaqat, and it's a passage, is about a page and a half, where he goes into detail as regards Islamic education and gearing people towards what they call mura'atul mawahib, and focusing upon and safeguarding and paying attention to people's gifts and natural abilities, and looking at children from an early age and say, who are the studious children and who are the children who like to fight? The children who like to fight, they are geared in a particular direction. The children that are natural leaders, they're geared in a particular direction. The children that are more studious, they're geared in a particular direction. They are taught the obligations of the religion, but those that want to go farther, they're pushed as far as they will go until they fulfill all of the positions that are required to safeguard the Muslim community. And this is something that is tremendous. And this is and he had this under this discussion of what? Of community obligations. That it is not just mandatory for those people in their own efforts, but rather it is for the people that are closest to them, those, especially their parents that are responsible for them, to gear them in the directions that they need to go, to gear them and to turn them in the directions they need to go, and to support them, that they be supported financially and so on and so forth. So this is something without a doubt that is not a one-sided affair where we just sit around with wishful thinking, hoping that our communities improve and get better generation after generation. But it is something that is a collaborative effort. وَمَا لَا يَتِيمُ الْوَاجِبِ إِلَّا بِهِ فَهُوَ وَاجِبٌ. Whatever it takes to complete the obligation is an obligation. And the people have to do this مُتَعَاوِنِينَ عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, cooperating upon righteousness and piety. And so you have that which is فرض كفاية وهو الذي يطلب حصوله وتحصيله من المكلفين لا من كل واحد بعينه. And it is required to be done by the people of responsibility in a particular place and time, collectively, but not from every single person. Somebody, in an adequate amount of people from amongst them have to be fulfilling these obligations, but not every single person has to do them. فتعلم العلوم والصناعات النافعة والآذان والأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر ونحو ذلك. He said, كتعلم العلوم, and like people learning the various branches and sciences of the religion and that which is beneficial of other knowledge, of secular knowledge, what is called secular knowledge. والصناعات النافعة, and of beneficial industries and trades and so on and so forth. There's a tremendous book Shaykh Asadi rahimahullah ta'ala wrote that is called al-Barahin al-Quraniyah or al-Adillat al-Quraniyah fi an al-Ulum wal-Amal al-Asriyah dakhilatun fi ad-Din al-Islami. And the Quranic evidences that modern day sciences and inventions and industries and so on and so forth are a part of our religion. That we establish our deen with our dunya for the sake of our hereafter. And this is something that is tremendous. That people learn that which is beneficial. People learn that which is beneficial, as was stated by Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, that he said that the Muslims have abandoned at-tib, they have abandoned medicine, and they have left it for the Nasara. وَإِلَى يَوْمِنَا هَذَا. That was in the time of the tabi'in, the latter time of the tabi'in, the third generation of Islam, up until today. And the Muslims have abandoned much of medicine and left it for the kuffar, for the Christians, and so on and so forth. Alhamdulillah, there are many Muslim doctors today and the likes of these things. But those things that are needed in the community, those things that are needed in the community, services that are needed, things of benefit that are needed in the community, so on and so forth, it is for the people to look at those affairs and to provide those sorts of things that will bring about benefit and protect the people from harm and the likes of that. He said, likewise, al-adhan wal-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. Likewise is the case of the adhan and ordering the good and forbidding the evil, wa nahwi dhalik, and the likes of that. وهذه الأحكام الخمسة تتفاوت تفاوتا كثيرا بحسب حالها ومراتبها وآثارها. And these 5 rulings of the Sharia have much variance between them, and they are many different levels according to their hal and their maratib and their athar, according to their individual states and according to their levels and according to the effects and the benefits that they bring to people and what they protect people from of harm, and so on and so forth. فَمَا كَانَ مَصْلَحَتُهُ خَالِصَةً أَوْ رَاجِحًا أَمَرَ بِهِ الشَّارِعُ أَمْرَ إِيجَابٍ وَاسْتِحْبَابٍ وَمَا كَانَتْ مَفْسَدَتُهُ خَالِصَةً أَوْ رَاجِحًا نَهَى عَنْهُ الشَّارِعُ نَهِي تَحْرِيمٍ أَوْ كَرَاهَةٍ. He said, that which has pure or overwhelming benefit, that which has pure or overwhelming benefit for people, then the lawgiver, Tabarak wa Ta'ala, has ordered the people to do it. And that order is either something that is obligatory or it is something that is recommended. And the asl is what? The origin of an order is that it is mandatory. That it is mandatory. That which has pure or overwhelming benefit. that which has pure or overwhelming benefit. And what is meant by pure or overwhelming benefit, what is meant by overwhelming benefit are those things where there are no any difficulty and harm connected to them in general. And there are no any difficulty and harm and any substantial pain and so on and so forth the person may go through. Any amra bihi shari amra ijabin wa istihbab. Otherwise, the Shaykh Ibn Qayyim, Al-Imam Ibn Qayyim, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, and he said that it is best to stay away from phrasing it just like that, because it can give the wrong impressions, that which has a pure or overwhelming benefit. Any rajiha, and as opposed to having a pure benefit, and it gives the impression that there are some things within the Sharia that we are ordered to do that have mafasid connected to them, that have mafasid, any harms and evils that are connected to them, and so on and so forth. And that obviously is not the case. He said about that which has a pure or overwhelming benefit a person has been ordered to do, and that order is that which is obligatory or is recommended. وَمَا كَانَتْ مَفْسَدَتُهُ, according to the thing. And that which has a pure or overwhelming harm, نَهَى عَنْهُ شَارِعُ نَهِي تَحْرِيمُ أَوْ كَرَاهَةً. That which has a pure or overwhelming harm has been forbidden in the Sharia in a way that is either forbidden or disliked. فَهَذَا الْأَصْلُ يُحِيطُ بِجَمِيعِ الْمَأْمُورَاتِ وَالْمَنْهِيَاتِ. Everything ordered by Allah and forbidden by Allah, meaning everything in the religion. Everything in the religion, because the religion is a number of things. From the affairs of the religion are aqa'id. The most important affairs of the religion are matters of belief. And those matters of belief we have been ordered to believe in. And from the religion are those things that are acts of worship that we have been ordered to do. And those affairs as regards establishing the rights of Allah and the rights of the creation in general. And as regards business and trade and marriage and divorce and the likes of these things. And that we have been ordered with. And so everything in the religion falls under the ma'murat and the manhiyat. And that which is ordered and that which is forbidden. That's why they say the entire religion is al-halal wal-haram. Is the entire religion. Al-halal wal-haram. That which is ma'mur and that which is manhi. That which is ordered and that which a person is forbidden from. And he is ordered because it has pure overwhelming benefit. And that which is forbidden because it has pure or overwhelming harm. And that which has the greatest benefit for mankind in this world and the hereafter, and the greatest obligation is what? Tawheed. Is to single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His rights, with His names and His attributes and His actions, on account of which He has the right to be worshipped, and to single Him out, tabarak wa ta'ala, with our actions, with our worship of Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the greatest prohibition is a prohibition from a shirk. So then a person can say that which has the highest benefit, right? That which has the highest obligation has the highest benefit. And that which is the greatest prohibition has the greatest harm. Has the greatest harm. And so a person, accordingly, and he can, and learning his religion and learning the details of what is in the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, he can start to realize those maqasid and those hikam and those ma'ani, and those objectives and wisdoms and greater meanings of the Sharia of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, for which Allah legislated, those things that are of a benefit for him. Those things that are of a benefit for him. There's a tremendous principle that is mentioned in another book that is called Usulun Azima min Qawa'id al-Islam. Tremendous fundamentals from the principles of Islam. Usulun Azima min Qawa'id al-Islam. Tremendous fundamentals from the principles of Islam, by the author of the same book, Shaykh Abdul Rahman, by the same author of this book, Abdul Rahman ibn Nasir al-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala. He has a principle that says, Al-Imanu billah aslu ruqi al-haqiqi wa kulli salahin. And that the Imanu billah, that believing in Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, which is a tawheed, to single out Allah, His names, His attributes, His actions, His right to be worshipped, to believe that Allah exists, to believe in His beautiful names, His lofty attributes, His wise, tremendous actions, and the fact that He deserves to be worshipped, and then to single Him out with our actions, Tabarak wa Ta'ala, that this faith in Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is the basis of every progress for the human race, and every salah, and every affair of benefit in this world and the hereafter. And then he systematically mentions how the beliefs that a person has about Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, how they bring about within his heart the ubudiyyah al-qalbiyyah, the acts of worship of the heart, and how that translates into his treatment of others, and his dealings with others, and his bringing about of khair in the earth of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and his using the asbab nafi'ah, and the beneficial means of modern day technology and science and industry and so on and so forth, to do that which is pleasing to Allah, and to benefit himself and to benefit others in a manner that is most pleasing to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And he explains in great detail therein how the basis of all of that, the basis of physical, material progress in this world is at-tawheed. Any type of progress that a person can imagine. The most beloved action to Allah is to bring surur, to bring happiness to the heart of the believer. Jazakallahu khairah. The same thing can be said about shirk, that the cause of every backwardness and destruction and harm in this world is a shirku billahi tabarak wa ta'ala. And what is even more extreme than a shirk, and it is a form of shirk without a doubt, which is al-ilhad, yani pure atheism, where people don't believe, not that they are ascribing partners in worship with Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, but rather where they believe that there is no deity worthy of worship in any way whatsoever. But as al-Imam Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Muallimi rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned, and is likewise mentioned by Shaykh al-Albani in some of his writings, that every form of kufr is shirk. Because from shirk is shirk al-ta'ah, and where a person obeys, and their hawa, their desires, or their shaitan, or their udama, their leaders, their philosophers, their politicians, so on and so forth, in opposing the religion of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, likes of those affairs, and believing that these things have been legislated or that they are permissible for them, and the likes of that. And so, this without a doubt, this mentality that the people have of destroying everything and trying to do away with everything that has a basis in divine revelation of morality or of belief or anything of the sort, and relegating religion to the confines of a person's home and so on and so forth, without a doubt it is the basis of every type of backwardness that you can imagine. And so you see the people today intentionally dismantling their society with their own hands. There are too many people, not enough resources. We need to promote alternative lifestyles for people. They just voted today in Ireland, the first country to vote to allow same-sex marriage on a national level. And this is something that is an agenda that is being pushed very heavily to dismantle the family, to destroy the nuclear family that consists of a mother and a father and children and so on and so forth, to dismantle the society, to make it more controllable and predictable for the sake of the bottom dollar amount that they can make and so on and so forth for their profits and their profit margins or whatever. So this is something that when the people abandoned the religion, when they abandoned religiosity, when they abandoned that which was revealed authentically by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to the messengers, alayhimu salatu wassalam, particularly to the messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who has a last and final revelation that is unchanged, when they built their society upon this, and it is the cause of every backwardness that a person can imagine. Every backwardness that a person can imagine, every fasad, every corruption, every ifsad, every ruining and destruction of the affairs and the systems that have been in place throughout the history of mankind, we see being unraveled today in the name of progress and advancement and civilization and so on and so forth. And so everything that Allah has ordered and everything that Allah has forbidden has been ordered. That which has been ordered because it has pure overwhelming benefit, and that which has been forbidden because it has pure or overwhelming harm. وأما المباحات فإن الشارع أباحها وأذن فيها وقد يتوصل بها إلى الخير فتلحق بالمأمورات وإلى الشر فتلحق بالمنهيات. As for that which is permissible, then has been permitted by the Sharia, by the Shari', by the lawgiver, meaning Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. وأذن فيها, and Allah has allowed it. وقد يتوصل بها إلى الخير فتلحق بالمأمورات, and a person can use it for the good And therefore it is connected in ruling to the ma'murat, to that which has been ordered. وَإِلَى الشَّرِّ, and he can use it for the evil. فَتُلْحَقُ بِالْمَنْهِيَاتِ, and so it is connected in its ruling to that which is forbidden. That which is forbidden. Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned how a person engaging in fudul and mubahat, and in excess in that which is permissible of eating and drinking and sleeping and so on and so forth, how it leads a person all the way to a shirk wal kufr billahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. It can, not necessarily, will, of course, in every situation, a person being excessive in their appetite is not going to lead every person to disbelief. I mean, that's preposterous to say and far-fetched, but it can. It can, because it leads people to sin and disobedience, and sin and disobedience is a corridor that leads people to shirk and kufr. The more a person disobeys Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, the less significant Allah becomes with them, to the point that one day the entirety of the religion may become insignificant, unimportant, and they may abandon their religion, stripping off their religion piece by piece until nothing remains. And so it's a serious affair. Al-Imam Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, and he mentioned in his tafsir of Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala mentioned about Banu Israel and how they wanted to go down into the land, or they wanted Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, who was giving them al-manna wa salwa, he was giving them this delicious food and drink and so on and so forth, and from the heavens and from the earth, and he had given them the hajar that gushed with 12 springs and so on and so forth. They wanted more. They wanted the lentils and the onions and the this and the that and the third, right? And it was said to them, اهبطوا مصرا فإن لكم ما سألتم. And go down to any land and you will find that you are asking about. وضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة وباءوا بغضب من الله. And they incurred upon themselves humiliation and degradation and the wrath of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And the wrath of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. So this is the reality of the affair. What's after that? That is because they used to disbelieve in the ayats of Allah and kill the prophets and the messengers without a right. So they went from what? They went from fudul and mubahat, from being excessive in their appetite, so on and so forth, in a way that led them to the haram, all the way to disbelieving in the ayats of Allah and killing the prophets and the messengers without a right. And if you have access to the tafsir of the Sa'di, راجعه غير مأمورين, and he referred to the tafsir of the Sa'di, and it's translated. And the tafsir of Surah Al-Baqarah is translated all the way to Surah An-Nisa. I believe it's translated, right? So refer to that. But this is an example of what the Shaykh mentions here, and that which is a means to lead people to shar, even if in and of itself it is mubah, it is permissible, but it is a means that leads people to evil, and it is forbidden. It is forbidden. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in a hadith great to be Hasan by Shaykh al-Albani in al-Jami al-Saghir, he said, لا تكثروا الضحك فإن كثرة الضحك تميت القلب. Don't laugh too much, because laughing too much kills the heart. Don't laugh too much, because laughing too much kills the heart. It's permissible for a person to have a sense of humor, to laugh, to be jovial, so on and so forth, but it can be that which can go beyond the bounds, can be excessive, right? You see a guy, half the people in the society, about 98% of people in the society, they are somebody that they saw on TV, or a combination of people they saw on TV. So they walk and talk and emulate and dress, and according to their celebrities, their celebrated figures, their idols, the stars, right? So they're trying to be like athletes and entertainers, and this one and that one and the third, and they're imitating the likes of these people. And you find even sadly from some of our brothers, and who have not kicked off false entertainment and so on and so forth, that they always want to be the funny man, right? You see some people that they laugh so hard that you fear for their life. They laugh so hard you fear for their life. Stop, akhi. You don't want to make the brother laugh. Please don't make him laugh, right? And kathratul dhahak tumitul qalb. And it's something that hardens the heart. And you're laughing too much, it hardens the heart. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, if you knew what I knew, you would laugh very little and you would cry very much. And the one wording of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, when he found his companions doing that, and he made them very sad, And the angel Jibril, he was sent to the Prophet ﷺ, is found with al-Munzir and targhib wa tarhib, to be authentic by al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala. And he said, يقول الله تعالى لما تقنط عبادي. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, he said, O Messenger, why did you cause my servants to lose hope, to despair? Right? So there's also a balance in that. A person he isn't so sad, abus, qamtarir, he's always walking around like his best friend in the world just died and so on and so forth. You see some people that are always depressed and sad, and they think that that is from religiosity. They think that that is from righteousness or from piety, so on and so forth. They think that any walking in a certain way or talking in a certain way will make them look like they're a righteous, humble person, that sort of thing. And that is something that is foolish. And it was said to Aisha radiallahu anha, on one occasion she saw some young men, they were walking down the street, and they were walking like they were corpses. She said, Man ha'ula? فَقَالُوا النُّسَاكِ. They said that they are the nusak, they are the righteous youth. She said, كان عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه إذا ضرب عوج وإذا أكل شبع. Umar ibn al-Khattab, when he used to strike, he would hurt somebody. And when he used to speak, وَإِذَا تَكَلَّمَ أَسْمَعْ. And when he would speak in a way where you would hear him. وَإِذَا أَكَلَ شَبِعْ. And when he ate, he would eat his full. And he wouldn't stuff himself, but he would eat his full. And that was just necessary. وَكَانَ هُوَ نَاسِكُ حَقًّا. And he was a true righteous youth. And he was a true righteous youth. And so a person, and he has to know that there's a balance. A person has to know there's a balance. But whatever the case, and that which leads to the haram, and that which leads to the haram of excess in the things that are mubah, fudul and mubahat, and the excessiveness in eating and drinking and sleeping and so on and so forth. Some of the Salaf, they used to say, as is mentioned by Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak in his book Az-Zuhd wal-Raqa'iq, from some of the Imams of the Salaf, that it was reported that some of them said that أحب الناس أحب إنساني إلى الشيطان الآكول النوام. And that the person who is the most loved human being to shaitan is the one who eats a lot and sleeps a lot. The most loved human being to the shaitan is the one who eats a lot and sleeps a lot. And so it can be something that can lead a person to that which is haram. فَتُلْحَقُ بِهِ. And so those affairs, they are connected to what they lead to. They are connected to what they lead to. In general, it's permissible for a person to have a cell phone, right? But it's a very bad idea to give your teenage child a cell phone, right? Even if you think the best thoughts about your teenage, you don't want to say teenage child, your young adult that you're responsible for, so on and so forth, that you're supposed to be raising upon khair, and so on and so forth, access to internet, access to any entertainment in the palm of their hand, access to music and any social media and all sorts of things that may be very detrimental to them. A person, to drive a car is permissible, to buy a car in general is permissible. A person may use the car to drive to the haram. A person may take a vehicle and use it for a transportation company that is haram, so on and so forth. That which he is, for him to purchase something that he knows he is going to use for the haram is haram for him. In general, that thing is mubah. That thing is permissible. But if it's going to be that which leads to the haram or is feared to lead to the haram, so on and so forth, it must be abstained from. فَهَذَا أَصْلٌ كَبِيرٌ أَنَ الْوَسَائِلَ لَهَا أَحْكَامُ الْمَقَاصِدِ. And this is a tremendous fundamental in the Sharia, that the ends and the means share in ruling. That the ends and the means, they share in ruling. And what is meant by that? The scholars, they say that al-umur ثلاثة أنواع, that affairs that a person goes through that are connected to his actions, there are three types. The maqasid, which are the actions, the statements and actions of people themselves, in and of themselves, whether they are haram, whether they are disliked, whether they are permissible, whether they are impermissible, whether they are obligated, whether they are recommended, so on and so forth. Those are called the maqasid in this principle. And that is what is meant by the ends, or the objectives. The ends are the objectives. And the means share in rulings. The means to those ends share in the same ruling. So we have two of three things. The third thing is what are called at-tawabi' al-mutammimat. Those things that come as a natural consequence of people's actions, that are directly connected to people's actions. And we'll give some examples. a person is ordered to pray, the particular person who lives close to the masjid can hear the adhan, or is close enough to comfortably get to the masjid, so on and so forth, without incurring difficulty upon himself, to pray the salat in jama'ah with his brothers in Islam. The Muslim man is obligated to pray the salat in jama'ah with his brothers. He cannot sit in his lazy boy recliner and wish himself into the masjid. He cannot say, Akhi, what are you doing? I'm just trying to transport myself into the masjid, without doing what? Without getting off his backside, grabbing the keys off of his mantle, getting into his car and driving to the masjid. So he has to take the means. To the what? To the ends. He has to take the means to the ends. It is mandatory for him to do that. And that is counted as an act of worship. For every step that he takes towards the masjid, a good deed is counted in his favor. For every step that he takes towards the masjid, a bad deed is removed from him. And he is raised in a daraja. So it's something that is tremendous. It's something that is tremendous. And that al-wasailu laha ahkam al-maqasid, that the ends and the means share in rulings. That the ends and the means share in rulings. That which it takes to, so now we have 4 principles that are built under this. Whatever it takes to establish an obligation is an obligation. Whatever it takes to, whatever leads to the haram is haram. Whatever establishes and completes, and whatever establishes and completes and brings into fruition that which is recommended is recommended. The means that lead to the makruh are also makruh, right? They are also makruh. And so, this is a tremendous principle in the Sharia. And the third thing that is connected with them, that is connected with it, and in particular as regards that which is legislated of obedience to Allah Ta'ala, that are called the tawabi', which are the natural byproducts of a person's actions. Like we heard from the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said to Aisha, "Inna ajraki ala qadr al-mashaqqa," when she was making the hajj, that indeed your reward is according to the degree of difficulty. We said that the difficulty is not maqsoodun li dhatiha, is not intended in and of itself, is not the purpose of the legislation, but rather, and it exists, as Imam Shatibi rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, لِإِخْرَاجِ الْعِبَادِ, to remove the ibad from the ittiba' al-hawa, from the following of their desires, إِلَى عُبُودِيَّةِ اللَّهِ وَحْدَ, to the worship of Allah alone. It's something that's tremendous. That's something that's tremendous. It causes the person to fight his desires. A person is ordered to fight his desires. And the difficulty that is found in certain actions as a natural byproduct of the action itself. And it is not a means to the action. And it is not what is intended by the action itself, but it is brought about by doing the action. A person is also rewarded for. A person is also rewarded for. A person is ordered to take care of their family, to provide for his family. And in order to provide for his family, he's going to have to get off his keister and go get a job. He's going to have to put in applications. He's going to have to get job training and learn some skills and so on and so forth, and do what it takes to establish the obligation. To establish the obligation, he has to provide for his family. Now, if he could provide for his family because he has an inheritance, he doesn't have to what? He doesn't have to work, right? He doesn't have to work. If that's enough to take care of that. So the working in and of itself is not what is obligated, but it is obligated because it is a means to establish the obligation. It is a means to establish the obligation, which is to take care of the needs of his family and those that he is responsible for spending upon, from his usul and his furu', from his parents, grandparents, and his children, and his mamalik, and his slaves. People don't have slaves anymore, but in the past. His zawjat, his wives, his awlad, his children, so on and so forth. His aqarib, in a situation where you are the nearest relative who has the ability to spend upon your family member, and they don't have the ability to, at the time, to take care of themselves. It can become obligatory in the Sharia for you to take care of your aqarib, to spend upon them. And so that which is nafaqatun wajiba, and obligatory spending, so on and so forth. And it must be done by a person having halal income, so on and so forth, which is the means to that obligation. Then the natural byproduct of that, sometimes his job is going to be easy. Sometimes he goes to work and he's like, I can't believe they pay me for this. Sometimes he comes home from work and he wants a vacation. He's tired, he's frustrated, right? He's like, man, I should have found something else to do as a career with my life, so on and so forth. This is very difficult. It's a hardship, so on and so forth. But he incurred that difficulty in order to fulfill the rights of Allah by spending his money in zakat and sadaqah, so on and so forth, and the rights of the creation of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, taking care of his family, so on and so forth. Inna Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, Hadith Qudsi, Inna أنزلنا الماء ونزلنا الماء لإقامة الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة. Indeed, we only sent down the wealth upon the earth to establish the salat, like the building of masajid, and the payment and rendering of the zakat. And there's rights of Allah and rights of the creation in a person's money. If a person encounters difficulty in doing that, and he will, without a doubt, regularly encounter difficulty in his employment, so on and so forth, then he is also rewarded for that. He is also rewarded for that, and that's something that is very encouraging. It's very encouraging for a person when a person starts to incline towards laziness and feel hopeless and so on and so forth. When they go through difficulty, that they do that affair and with ihtisab, seeking the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is from what is called a tawabi', the natural consequences, the mutammimat, that which is from the final byproduct of a person's actions, directly connected to his actions. So we have three things, which are the ends, the means, and the byproducts of the actions themselves. What is caused by the actions themselves, the tawabi', that which follows after the action itself, that is not intended in and of itself. Whatever a person endures in establishing the proper means to the correct ends, before or after the action and the commission of an action, then that is also connected to that action and ruling. That is also connected to that action and ruling. If somebody does something that is forbidden, that leads to the loss of a life of another person, so on and so forth, then that is connected to the action that was forbidden. A person who, he is cooperating with some people, and he's the lookout for some people. This is a Newark example. Afwan. He's the watch out guy while some people are in the commission of something else. Something goes wrong, somebody dies. Right? This was the tawabi'. It was the unintended result of what he did. And it follows that thing in its hukum. It follows that thing in its hukum. The person, he is liable. The person, he is responsible for that affair. And so under this principle falls the tremendous principle that is called saddu dhara'i, cutting off the dhari'ah, the means that lead to disobedience and kufr and shirk and whatever else. That which leads to the haram is haram. That which leads to the haram is haram. Shaykh Usama Taimi Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned, I believe it was over 100 evidences for this principle, saddu dhara'i, cutting off the means that lead to the haram, in his tremendous book, I'lam al-Muwaqi'een. Like it is forbidden to look at the woman that is ajnabiyyah, she is a woman that is a foreign woman. Not that she doesn't have a U.S. passport, but she is not his relative. The foreign woman, the woman that is foreign to him, is not from his relatives, is not his wife, is not somebody that he is intended in marrying, and so on and so forth, and would be intended in marrying him. Just go looking at sisters talking about I'm making intentions, he doesn't have a legislated reason, permission to be able to look at a particular woman. It is forbidden for him to look at her because it will lead to that which is haram. It leads to him looking at her, speaking with her, so on and so forth, fraternizing with her, talking to her, these sorts of things that can lead to that which without a doubt is much worse. This is where we'll stop today. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.